And if you couldn't guess by now,
enough.
That was Body by Megan Thee Stallion.
And we're all questioning life choices at the moment.
Big 5'10". Don't call her a stallion for nothing. She's actually very tall. Did y'all see the real quick before we get started? Because this is what we always do. Did y'all see actually the I guess behind the scenes where it showed Meg Thee Stallion and next to Tatiana?
Yes, and the motion capture suit.
Oh,
yeah,
the suit just like.
You see Tatiana's like just table. Like rolling while they're all doing it. Like
it looked like she was just having a time.
Yeah, she apparently enjoyed that. But hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Kazoo. We are here for another week. Obviously we are missing Adam today, the official Megs. He's not feeling too well, so y'all be sure to go and show him some love. Go and follow him on social media, like up his videos. Just show him a little love. He's feeling a little down right now because of being sick. He hates that he's missing it, but you're here with your two hosts. My name is JPhrygian. Next to me, KingVonSchweetz. And then we have a very, very special guest today who I'm going to make bigger. Say hello to everyone.
Hello,
Mr.
everyone.
MrMARVELite.
No, please don't make me any bigger. I'm already a big guy as it is. So I appreciate that, but just bring me back down the size. I appreciate that.
But no, we're so happy to have you on.
And with Adam being gone, we normally have the best thing we've seen all week, and it's usually Adam that's found something, but Jordan has pulled up something really great. This one, I think we've all seen it. At least if you haven't seen it, you should see it. So luckily Jordan's got it pulled it up here, and we're gonna watch this little clip and we'll talk about it right after.
Make sure the volume's good. Everybody hear good? Hopefully we're not blowing out the audio listeners' ears. Go check out the video version if you want to see what we're watching. Looks so good.
I literally I can't get over it. It's so phenomenal.
That right there was fire.
Yeah,
that
right there was like what?
Yeah.
Phenomenal work. So that was the unreleased Spider-Man Lotus VFX team and some of their work.
Yeah, man, very good
before
work.
We get to the controversy around it, I just want to say that 10-second clip was amazing, and I hope that through that, all of the people that worked on it can use that in portfolios and move up in the world and get jobs within the VFX if that's what they wish.
Yeah, because they released this right after they left the project, didn't they? They stepped away and
they
I think they stepped away.
They were like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. But then,
and we're gone.
Yeah, they just released it like 2 or 3 days ago, and such solid work.
Yeah, from what I understand, it's like they were like, hey, we still want people to see this, because I don't think that that's going to be used in the movie. Like, I think the movie's still going through, maybe different people are working on it, but
oh really? I didn't do that.
I'm not sure.
If it is, I'm pretty sure it's Ezra Miller's PR team that's helping them out. So
would not be shocked on that one. For those of you who don't know, there was a whole thing with, I believe, the director and the main star, who are
children.
I can't say are, but at least were at some point, and maybe still are. Yes, children. Very inappropriate and racist things were said.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're different people now, because from what I know, a lot of those things were in the very distant future, or I mean past, not in the future. Hopefully not. Hopefully they're different people now. But unfortunately, one of those things where the whole James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy scenario.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that. Just like
Well, I think the biggest thing to remember is the internet never forgets anything, and
No, it really
like
doesn't.
and that was the thing. Like with James Gunn, he had apologized years before, and then of course the white supremacist basically came out and decided to rehash everything, and you had, which was probably the best thing for DC at the time, not knowing that David Zaslav was going to exist later on in life. Getting James Gunn into doing DC content, which was amazing. So,
which we're going to talk about this more later in a little bit, but it's kind of begging that question of if someone that is not a great human being or hasn't made great decisions in a really phenomenal piece of art, does that mean the art is suddenly trash? Like, and we'll talk about it later, but I mean, like,
I have a good answer.
Hard.
I think
It's hard to like something when you see a literal villain on screen.
if we're gonna do that, I have to put my thinking glasses on for that one. So
before we get into all the deep stuff, though, in comics, we're still talking about the same two comics lately. Edge of the Spider-Verse hasn't come out with a new issue in the past week, but we are waiting on that. If you haven't picked it up or read it on Marvel Unlimited, you need to. It's fantastic. The first issue has Spider-Rex in it, and Jordan and I were talking about that yesterday of how odd of a origin story he has. He starts off as a pterodactyl and then gets transformed into a T-Rex with spider powers,
which is really on par for even like Spider-Ham. So that works great.
You got to go read it because it really is interesting. But with the Fortnite Zero War comics, I have one here. This was the fourth penultimate issue. And this one gives you, if you read it and put the code in on Epic Games, it gives you a spray with Patch or Wolverine, as many people know him in the game. And that is one of the only two items that won't be released in the item store, things like that. So definitely worth going to a comic book store or finding a place online that you can get that sent to you, because it's a pretty good series so far. And I'll say it again because we said it last week. 2 weeks ago, the issue that came out had Wolverine canonically making love with a Fortnite character. So that's just
Wolverine, a player, bro.
He really is. He said, "Is that a redhead?"
So I didn't know she knew how to do the kiss button on there. Like,
if she's a redhead, does she have like double personality issues too?
Wait.
She was tormented from childhood and kind of suppressed it. But it's not a whole Jean Grey thing.
Now listen, I'll be honest with you. I haven't even read the comic books yet, but like the just you bringing up the idea of Wolverine like making out with a digital character, the first thing I think of is like, what was the, like, was it like up down left right A B A B? Like what?
Was it just press Y like Assassin's Creed 2? Did y'all
like,
play that?
Of course, with Wolverine, like he probably only had that one move that he knew really well, and like he just kept doing it until it was like finish her.
Speaking of that, actually, and I haven't seen anything about that, but did y'all see, like, have y'all seen the little things about like the Reddit girl or whatever? Have y'all seen people making video? There's like some video or something going on. Like I've seen it all over TikTok where people are like, I feel so bad for that girl on Reddit. Some girl on Reddit, like, I guess spilled the beans on an ex she had who like she always knew when he wanted to have sex because like he wanted to play this song and it's like a really annoying song.
That's what that song is. Like I did. Yeah. Okay, that song has been going around TikTok now. Makes sense because I'm like I'm missing something.
I kept seeing.
I don't know if you've seen it, MrMARVELite, but Jordan and I saw it and Lionsgate.
Oh my god!
Okay, you're talking about like the American Psycho with the music.
Yep.
They're not just doing it with that; they've done it with a number of videos. No. Like they're going deep in.
I'm not. I think I was the only person that commented and said like, Lionsgate social media is better than any content creator out there. Y'all just go full in and don't care.
They really didn't.
It's so solid.
I think anything we're going to say about this topic is going to go in the like.
Yes.
And we got on this.
Don't worry, this
Fortnite.
this podcast is NSFW. We put the explicit banner on there. It's okay.
With Fortnite and Wolverine and his relationships. There have been some Fortnite leaks that have come out in the past week or so. And, you know, with every season of Fortnite, there's always fake leaks that come out. For some reason, graphic designers sit on their butt for hours a day and create these fake, like, why? I don't know. But
all it does is get a bunch of retweets.
Very convincing. Like, I saw one yesterday that I was, this hand to God, this had to be the real thing. And then I saw one today that I was like, no, wait, this one has to be the real thing. Anyway, one thing's for sure. It seems that Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider is going to be coming into Fortnite. And there's been rumors of maybe Miles Morales, but I feel like he has to since we already have Peter and Gwen.
That'd be fire.
Yeah, I heard that Miles was going to follow like shortly after, like it'd be like a release later on, kind of like
item shop,
like Indiana, or even like an Indiana Jones in the Battle Pass.
Ooh, that would be cool.
I would love that.
They also have they've had a couple leaks where people have said that Vision and Ultron may be coming.
That's what I saw
in the item shop or in the Battle Pass. They weren't sure yet.
And there was like a more comic accurate Scarlet Witch costume that I
there was a more comic accurate Scarlet Witch that was rumored. Again, these are all rumors, so the only one we know for sure is Ghost Spider. But then the last one that I saw was that the Indiana Jones skin that they currently have, what they've kind of done with that, and then the Rock's character, and I think Wolverine was the first character they did that with, where they kind of postpone it 10 weeks in or like 6 weeks into the Battle Pass. Apparently this next season is going to be Doc Brown from Back to the Future, which I think would be really interesting. But we'll see how that goes. More gaming news, which I have no idea anything about.
Oh, yeah. I think that's me. Yeah, something I just wanted to add to the docket. So I posted a video on the Daily Kazoo TikTok. Yes, we do have a TikTok page. Go and follow us. We're basically on all social media in some way, shape, form, or fashion. It's Daily Kazoo Podcast. If that's not the @ you'll still find us. I don't think anybody else has that name. And I even posted out a question on Twitter too. So Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is coming out October 28th. I think open beta or closed beta maybe comes out this month, like September 28th. But I decided to boot up Warzone for the first time in like over a year, I think. And it was something. I'm getting back into it, trying to get back on the FPS grind. You know, you often see the members of the Daily Kazoo on Fortnite a lot, but I was like, let me see if I can get back into my FPS game. And man, that game is frustrating. And so I posed the question to people because I think the huge problem with Call of Duty, at least Warzone, is the meta system. You just can buy a loadout. You basically get enough money. You buy a loadout in like the first 2 minutes, and you just get the gun that everybody else is using that kills everyone the fastest, and it's just super annoying. So I don't know. I posed a question of if they did a no loadout mode, kind of like what Fortnite did with no build, that really like brought a lot of people back over to it. I just personally think that it could benefit from that. And something I think Adam actually pointed out was it could also benefit from ranked, because I didn't even think about that either. Like Fortnite has ranked, so people who really want to sweat and be like super annoying, like they go and play ranked. Like I want to be like a pro pub player, like a casual pub player. Like I can dust on some people in casuals, but I'm not a tactical. Like, man, I know all the best guns and I know how to get the fastest TTK. Like it's not me, man. It's just not. By the way, TTK is time to kill. I know that was some nerdy shit to say.
It's just like I get confused by the Call of Duty games because I think we were talking about this a couple days ago. There was Modern Warfare, then there was Modern Warfare 2, and there's Modern Warfare 3, and then there was Modern Warfare 1, and then there was Modern Warfare 2. And I'm like,
yeah, they rebooted for whatever. I don't know. I should go back. What I should do, because this would be a fun YouTube series, I should go back and play from Modern Warfare, like back in 07 Modern Warfare, like Call of Duty 4. I should go back to that and play it, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, shut up cat, and my cat just meowed beside me. And then the reboots, because I don't understand why they rebooted it.
Well,
Because they rebooted in 2019.
So though here's the thing, like I'm probably old enough to where like my last like real modern like Call of Duty game that I was really into was Black Ops 2.
Black Ops 2, yep.
And that was the game. And like this is how deep I was in. I bought the LG 3D TV that was like branded to go with it because I had glasses. So I had my buddy come over and you put your glasses on and you could both look at the same screen and see only your player. And it was the coolest thing on the PS3. And I loved it. And I still have my PS3 just in case I ever want to do that because that TV is now my bedroom TV. And like the story was fantastic. But then what they did was after Black Ops 2, they had, what was it, Advanced Warfare? And they had, or it was Ghost, and then it was like Advanced Warfare, where it was like all the like the boosted jumpings and stuff. And then they kind of like stuck with that. And there became a problem because people who were really into the more grounded gameplay really struggled with it and didn't like it. So it kind of went to the point of where it was like realistic combat, you know, or historical combat, which was what Call of Duty was all about. And then they kind of went down this wonky thing that I think they just had to reboot because it didn't make sense anymore.
Speaking of games that continually reboot and then also have historical and realistic combat, Assassin's Creed has a new game coming out called Mirage. That's basically all we know. But I will say the past couple Assassin's Creed games, once you have something great, like let's take Endgame, for instance, you have a really big dip where people are like, this sucks. When it's really just like the same like quality as the things before the big thing. So I think after Black Flag with Assassin's Creed, everybody was like, this sucks. But it hasn't. Yeah. So now they're coming out with Mirage, which I think is the fourth game after Black Flag. So I'm happy to see that there's...
Depends on if you include spin-offs.
Okay. 7 games. It's a number of games. I'm just saying I'm happy that they have continued on, even though there are a lot of people that, as we say, don't want to leave their opinions in their head.
And you know what's funny? It's really funny that you bring that up. I think I saw a tweet, and I want to bring up because isn't all that released was a cover?
Like I think so. I think it was just the cover, and then like the title was there, and everybody was like, "Okay." So there's not a whole lot to go off of.
Yeah, like tell me why this is all that was shown. For those listening to the audio version, appreciate you. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple, and hop over to the video version if you want to see what we're looking at. But we're looking at the art. Plug. Oh yeah, I'm great. You know, I do it whenever I can. You got to let the people know. You got to let them know. So this is the cover art for it. And all I heard people say was, this is the most Assassin's Creed that Assassin's Creed has looked in a long time. And I was just like, bro, it's cover art. Like, what do you mean? We ain't even got no game.
We've seen other versions of this game where he's been in the exact same position.
I was like, it's cover art. Like, what do you... Is it just because he just have it's the bird, and you know what? He only has one blade. He only has
literally all it is. It's a guy in the air with a bird in the background. There's a tower somewhere in the background, and then a bunch of people below him, and maybe a couple guys.
I don't even notice him there.
And a couple of guys that maybe have weapons, and that's what every like concept art, cover art, whatever is always going to be.
But here's the thing: like the term Mirage, it's the idea of it's you see something, but it's an illusion. So you think, oh, this is the most Assassin's Creed it is. No, actually, he's really going for a bagel that's over on the right. Oh, it is.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, I'm excited for it. I do want to go back because I know that this is why I said there's actually been a few of them, because, like, I remember playing Black Flag in college, like my buddy, and some people kind of fell off at Assassin's Creed 3, but that's because it was a little buggy. A lot of people fell off at Assassin's Creed 4 because they didn't like all the ships. I thought it was fire. But then I remember when Origins came out, and I think Odyssey, but Origins was, I think, where like they went to a different combat system. Like it was way different. And I personally didn't like the revamp. But then I kind of went back and played it not too long ago, and I was like, this isn't so bad. So again, another series that maybe I should go back and do a replay. I should just go back and do replays on Twitch. That's that seems like more fun than playing the popular stuff.
I will say this though. I think what was most appealing about Black Flag was, if you really consider it, the game that I think comparatively to it is like the Spider-Man game. Open world, you go where you want, you have the freedom. I mean, if you want to just go like sail the ocean, go whaling and sing shanties, you could do it.
It was fire.
The ability to traverse like that, there's not other games that feel the same. Like, even if you play other Spider-Man games, it doesn't have the same feeling as swinging in the PS4 game. And then it's the same thing with the Black Flag game. Even if you played Kingdom Hearts 3 and you use, the Black Pearl and you start sailing on that, or you're sailing with, I don't even know what else people sail with, but like Sea of Thieves, like those games, as far as sailing, it feels different. And I feel like Black Flag really is the bar now as far as that kind of traversal goes. It really, like, you're not just sailing to another spot. You could get, in a fight with another ship. Your men can start singing. Like, there's like a whole bunch to it, and it's not just simple things. Whereas with Spider-Man, like you said, you're swinging, and you can add in, like, especially with the Miles Morales game, you can add in like what moves you're doing as you're falling, or like when you're shooting your web, like they make it look like he quite hasn't gotten the grasp on it yet because he's brand new to the whole spider thing.
Yep.
I honestly thought it looked swaggier though. I was like, they need to make
100% better.
Now, see, back when I was a kid, like a long time ago, when I had a GameCube,
64,
the Spider-Man 2 game on GameCube.
Yeah,
I think it was also on PS2. Xbox, yes, they were fire, and that was the same thing. It had open world. You actually had mechanics where it was like, if there weren't a building around, you couldn't do it. I mean, if you go even farther back to the first Spider-Man game, like literally, like he's swinging through the air fighting the Goblin. He's up above the skyscrapers, just like attaching to clouds. That's all he's really doing. And then you get to Spider-Man 2, and it was the best game that we had seen at the time. And then when we got this newer version with the PS4, like it felt real, it felt tangible. And the idea that they let you go through the city and see the sights, and even for the Miles Morales game, like they didn't rebuild the world. They just like they better rendered Harlem, because you could still go to the Sanctum Sanctorum, you could still go to Avengers Tower. Those things still existed in that world, which was fantastic.
And then they basically took the revamp of that and put it in the remaster, because if you play the remaster, its color scheme and everything is very much more similar to Miles Morales. And funny that we talk about both of those games. There's also there's a video of the, I guess, physics or swinging designer from Spider-Man 2 playing Spider-Man PS4, and like it's just very wholesome content.
They also, since Spider-Man PS4 is now on PC, the past couple of weeks, we've seen more and more mods coming out for
the mod. Did you see the mod him from the PlayStation 1 game?
Yes. So we have like previous games of like Peter Parker in PS1 games and the GameCube game, like all of the other Spider-Man games, getting those suits adapted, getting some animated shows suits adapted that we've never seen in a video game before. But then we're also having people do things like Kermit the Frog.
Or how about Uncle Ben?
The gravestone of Uncle Ben. That was a good one. One that I really enjoyed was they put all 4 of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the game. And watching them do parkour over the buildings is phenomenal and makes me want a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game.
I also saw them do Goku. So
I haven't seen that one.
That's cool. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, modders are phenomenal right now. They're really doing the Lord's work on those games.
It's insane.
I have no doubt that we're going to be seeing more and more crazy stuff as the PS5 Spider-Man 2 with Peter and Miles. I'm sure that there's going to be more.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
that is so awesome.
Good. And it like literally like I don't even know if some of these moves were like moves that Peter was doing. Like
they are.
Okay.
They're all moves Peter was doing.
Yeah. They in this entire video, I think they only use their webs once, and they go pretty far within New York, and it's it just makes me want a TMNT video game.
Like a good
absolutely.
one.
An open world like this would be fantastic. Like,
Absolutely.
this is also what I was hoping when Square Enix did the Avengers game. I was really hoping that they were going to kind of lean into what worked well for Spider-Man and just build an open world where you could do missions. And they tried to do that with like having, the helicarrier be the base or the hub, but then it just didn't work well. And of course,
I think with video games, there's, how once people see a formula and they know it works, then they start only doing that formula and then people get tired of it. I think with video games, they got tired of it in the late to early 2000s of having those open worlds like Spider-Man and some of the other games that came out back then. And people were just like, every game has an open world now, like, come on. And now they're kind of trying to create games that don't have open worlds because they're too far and in between. But with games like the Avengers, that's kind of a game that everybody expected to be an open world game. And I think that the way they did it was, I could understand why they did it the way that they did, because you want to be able to go to Wakanda and also go to New York and also go to, San Fran. But like at the same time, the missions felt like you were in a tunnel and you had to go forward or backward, but you couldn't go left and right.
See, when it first came out, I bought the digital exclusive edition on the PS4, and I don't know why I did it, because it didn't really matter to have anything extra. Like, it didn't do anything for me. I should have just bought the base unit. And I played it, and of course the story with Kamala was fantastic. Like, I loved the story, and that's what kept me going. But then once it got to the point of where it was like doing the co-ops and like just doing other stuff for points toward new skins and stuff, I had no interest in that, to the point of where I have never played the Wakanda DLC. I have not done it. I put it away. I have it on my PC and on my PlayStation, and I've played on both, just completing the story, and I didn't want to touch it after that. It just it ruined it for me.
For me, it's the only thing, and this will be probably before we move on to the game section, because I also have another thing to say about Disney, because I was a little confused. But for me, it's that the style of the game is a looter shooter. And like, this is before I really understood the concept of certain genres of games. I have found that I am just not a looter shooter person. Like, my buddies love Destiny. They love, I guess you could kind of consider Borderlands 1 too, because it's got like the raids and all that stuff. I tried to get into Outriders, and it was Outriders that made me realize, the reason why I don't like the Avengers games because I don't like looter shooter style games. I just don't. Same thing with MOBAs like Smite. Like, they're just not my thing. Yeah. But I think I might hop on it with Jacob, because Jacob still kind of plays it. I need to hit some of them DLCs just because. And I'm the same way. I got the PS4 digital exclusive because I was like, Spider-Man's coming, and then we didn't get it for a year. And also, everyone says he swings really slow. The last thing I want to say on games, and then you can say your thing, but why was the Assassin's Creed thing with Disney? Is that getting premiered at D23? Or is it just? Or was it just in the same tweet?
I think it was just I think whoever tweeted it just put it in there.
Okay. I was confused. Continue what you were going to say.
Because to my knowledge, D23, as far as the gaming news, they have Disney and Star Wars and Marvel games all happening on the same day, which is on Friday the 9th. And then the 10th and 11th to my knowledge, there's no video game news coming out then. But your boy, by the way, everyone, since we're talking about D23, Adam and I did solidify the 5 panels we're going to, and we got all the ones that we wanted. So awesome. We're going to be in the Hall H of D23. They're going to be presenting the Marvel stuff, the Star Wars stuff, the Disney and Pixar stuff, and then I'm trying to think. We also got into the Simpsons panel. Anyway, just check out our channels and the Daily Kazoo as well, because we're going to be talking about that for a while.
Go live and get blacklisted.
Yeah. I wanted to say, it sounds like the three of us are, as much as we like online games, we're really into story mode games. And as far as like plot, like we'd prefer that over just first person shooters every day for the rest of our lives.
Yes.
Yeah. For me, a lot of times it was because like I couldn't get to the movie theaters just because of opportunity. And so like a lot of times, like with like Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1,
How
like
you
I would
experience
play those games to experience the story for the movie, or I would read the novel adaptations because I didn't want to be in the lurch from everybody else.
No.
But then there was a change that happened, like when you had what was it, The Matrix Reloaded, or no, it was Enter the Matrix, where it actually added to the story, and then I got hooked on that.
That game was
So, oh my goodness, that game is like I've played that game so much. I unlocked everything I could on there.
And
one game that's adding on to the story as far as movies go that's coming out is Hogwarts Legacy. And I know that the game hasn't really given us a whole lot to look at as far as gameplay. It has given us a good bit, but not a whole lot. But they've really been upping their marketing lately. They had a full look at the 4 common areas for the 4 houses. And holy crap,
Cool.
I've never been prouder to say that I'm a Ravenclaw, because that common area looks fucking great. I'm so proud. They also had the look of how each of the 4 doors open to those common areas. I will say Slytherin's is definitely the best. There's not even a question. It was just so cool watching that happen. I was like, I wish I was in Slytherin. But we did also get the sad news that there's not going to be any Quidditch in the game.
What?
So that's
all I would have been doing.
But you're still able to fly on your broomstick and
okay, well, I'm gonna do that
different
then.
creatures. So I mean, like, sorry, you're not going to be able to press 2 buttons to grab a snitch or whack a bludger into a hole. Like, oh well. But I wanted to say on the podcast, if you go onto their website for Hogwarts Legacy and you link your WB and your Wizarding World accounts, you can transfer in your personal wand and your personal house from the Wizarding World website, which is super cool because like you get your wand in there. And then on top of that, you get, if you link the WB account, you get a like house pride cloak, which, depending on what house you're in, has your house sigil on it, as well as like the colors of your house. And you get a mask, which I'm not sure why there are masks in the game, but it seems cool. But I'm interested, knowing that there are masks, to see how, I guess, customizable your characters are. I'm hoping that it's a lot like Cyberpunk or Sims, where you can customize a lot of your character.
Maybe not the penis.
Hopefully not. Yeah, hopefully not as much as Cyberpunk, but
yes,
but,
MrMARVELite, that happened in Cyberpunk 2077. You could customize
their genitalia.
Genitalia.
Oh, that's
not just like pick like, oh, I want this or that. It's like, I want this, and I want it to look like this, and then
I want it to be hairy,
and this hair, and then
I want a landing strip, or I want Wookiee.
Why am I caring about this? Why like of all the complaints that happened in that game, like I guess because it didn't work so well for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And while we're on the really like dirty and nasty side of the video game world, I just want to say I'm super stoked for this week for Disney Dreamlight Valley to come out. Because you're also going to be able to customize your character in that, and it just seems like it's going to be really wholesome and a lot of fun, and it's like Disney Sims from what it seems like, so I'm pumped for that.
Okay, because you went from talking about like phallic customizations to
I know I was just messing.
Like I'm just sitting here waiting, like, okay,
you're like, where's the bad part?
Yeah.
You can customize your genitalia in the Disney game. No, I'm joking. Anyway, back to WB news though. For those of you who didn't hear, DC Fandom has been canceled, which is super sad, but at the same time, understand.
We all knew. Well, people who are sane knew, because I just want to say there's a lot of people who were like, yo, the reason DC didn't say nothing at San Diego Comic-Con was because they saving it for DC Fandom, bro. No.
And like the whole thing
to the credits.
Whole thing is like WB's had this really rough run lately, and they're doing it to themselves, but at the same time, correct me if I'm wrong, Fandom was created during COVID, and it was a way for DC to out all of that news without having to put their employees in compromising situations of getting COVID.
Well, yes, but here's the thing, though. Like, I will tell you, like 2020, I don't remember much about anything that was going on with DC, with the exception that we knew that James Gunn was going to be doing the Suicide Squad. But I was really excited last year with DC Fandom. They came out with some really fire announcements. We had gotten the promise of, more Harley Quinn, which thankfully that's the only thing that seems to be surviving David Zaslav. The dude, like they decided, we want to be like Marvel, but instead they just hired Thanos, and you've got like all of these things going on. I was excited about the basically the year one Batman for the origin from the animated series. Thankfully they're trying to keep that going. I was excited about Batgirl,
Cape Crusader, too.
Yes, like there was
they were working on Static Shock, like the movie, and oh my gosh.
I think Michael B. Jordan was supposed to be a producer on it or something.
I think from what I've heard, he's still trying to make that happen. But there's been no news about it. And this whole DC WB thing has been so up in the air that people don't really know what to count on anymore. As a huge fan of Titans, I'm like, is Titans safe? Like, they haven't said anything about it. And I'm like, it doesn't seem like it is, because otherwise they probably would have said something about it by now. It looks like all the live action stuff is just going in the can, and it sucks. But what are you gonna do?
The other thing too, speaking of DC Fandom last year, because I know you said you were super excited. The funniest thing about DC Fandom and like why I didn't really have faith was, like, at least for this year, was I was super excited when DC Fandom happened last year, and I remember making a video, and most people in our niche made a video talking like, yo, is 2022 about to be a comeback year for DC? Because they were riding off the hype of the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, and then literally 2 weeks after DC Fandom, I don't know who I'm echoing through. Literally 2 weeks after DC Fandom, it like delayed like 3 of their things, and now here we are almost at the end of 2022. Like, we're 2/3 of the way through, and literally like one thing has come out, 1 or 2 things have come out from DC Fandom.
Yeah, and they pushed stuff that like people were looking forward to. Like, I was looking forward to Shazam, and that gets moved. Of course, then you have the whole issue with Ezra Miller and just kind of like what all that entails, and it's kind of it's not losing faith in the property, it's losing faith in the studio. And I think that's been a long running thing for WB, even before, Discovery bought them out. They didn't do well when it came to Ray Fisher. They didn't do a good job when it came to, Snyder's, and then coming back recently, like whether you like the Snyder cut or not, them saying it was a bad move. Like, no, for once, DC thought that the fans thought that they were being listened to, and now they're come back and say, no, you're not. No, we don't really. We're going to do what we're going to want to do, and all those toxic fanboys that are angry about all the stuff that's coming out, this diversified, we'll cater to them more.
Well, and then the sad thing too is, like, you had the Snyder stuff. They were kind of going in the right direction with so much of their properties, but then their PR has just, like, it's always sucked. Like you said, you brought up like Ray Fisher. That man still ain't got an apology. It's just all types of things that just continue to be a problem. What's good, Evan?
I feel like there is always the dark before, the dawn kind of thing. Like, if you remember back in like 2006, 7, and then even onward, even though the Iron Man movie came out, there was still a lot of, back then, oh no, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 4. The X-Men movies kind of suck now. And Marvel was on a big decline, and people were like, this is not going well. And now, with WB canceling a lot of things, I understand that everybody's first reaction is DC sucks now. But I will say they are picking back up with the heavy rumors. I haven't seen anything fully confirmed, but the heavy rumors of Dan Lin actually coming in and being their Kevin Feige level executive producer of just making sure everything is actually a connected universe and moving through things like that. And then you also have Matt Reeves and his Batman series and his universe that he's creating with Batman with the two. I'm pretty sure or at least the Penguin show is untouched. I can't remember anything about the GCPD show, but
it's up in the air. It went from being a GCPD show and an Arkham show to being, I think, just an Arkham show, and like the GCPD will be featured or something like that.
Either way, I mean, like DC, I think there's nowhere to go but up. Like,
I mean, true. They hitting the rockest of bottoms because, like, I don't know. Like the other thing too, because speaking of like, I mean, this isn't a mistreatment type of thing, but also another thing with WB. Why the fuck we still ain't never got a Man of Steel 2? We've gotten a whole Ant-Man trilogy before we got a second Superman movie. I mean,
you're not wrong.
Well, that was the problem. Like Man of Steel did really well on its own. There were things that I didn't necessarily like about Man of Steel because it just seemed so foreign to, how we had seen like Superman for years. Like, the crystallized Fortress of Solitude and technology for Krypton and stuff like that, with being more organic. The idea that the Kryptonians were all like genetically engineered, like that kind of stuff was weird. It was weird and wonky. And then of course you had people that kind of struggled when, Superman has to kill Zod at the end of the movie. But it made sense. It made perfect sense. He was willing to save him. Zod to save people. And I think that was important. And I looked forward to more of it. And then they thought, we have a good thing going. I'm going to choke right now. Hold on a second.
Y'all pray for him.
It gets me choked up when I think about Henry Cavill. How he's treated.
He didn't come back for New York Comic Con, and I'm mad, or San Diego Comic Con. I'm mad.
No, but it's like it was like they thought, okay, we've got something good. People got really excited when they saw the Wayne satellite dish. In Man of Steel, let's just
kind of like
portion.
Yeah. And
they I mean, we went from having one superhero to having every single superhero in the Justice League being brought in like a quick like montage of digital files in Batman v Superman. And it just,
one of my favorite TikToks of all time was this guy was like, this is what would happen if WB was in charge of the MCU, and it was Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, Justice League. I was like, you're right. You're not wrong.
You just said if WB was in charge of the MCU, but then listed DC movies.
Or I'm sorry, if WB was in charge of Marvel, and then the movies were Iron Man, Civil War, and then Avengers Endgame.
No, you're right.
You're not right.
Who are these heroes that they're fighting each other? It doesn't matter. It
doesn't matter. They're all there.
And that's what I'm saying. Is like, because I remember, Batman v Superman, like Wonder Woman, like, her appearance at the time was like, oh, that's super hype. But looking back, it's like you had everything you needed with Man of Steel, with like Easter eggs and stuff to build the lore. Like in my mind, of course, hindsight's 2020. Go figure, the year 2020 where everything blew the F up. But you had everything to be like Man of Steel, Man of Steel 2, and then like it could have been like a post-credit scene, because they were already doing post-credit scenes by this point. Post-credit scene of Batman like observing and watching. So then like the whole thing in Batman v Superman of like flashing back to like he was in Gotham and saw Superman destroying everything, and so he picked back up the cowl. Like, but instead, we just jumped straight to we have three superheroes, and technically four, because Batman technically saw like Aquaman and all types in the Flash and everything in files and stuff.
And I feel like it's really weird because they had and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe this is just my opinion, the Man of Steel movie did better than the original Wonder Woman film.
I don't remember about that.
I don't know, but
I remember it was big at the time. Like it was.
I'm kind of confused why they were like, no Batman movie, not in the DCEU, don't make it, but we will have one Superman movie, two Wonder Woman movies, one of which will be garbage, Aquaman,
Pretty bad.
and then eventually a Flash movie, but that'll come after Justice League.
Man of Steel was $668 million. Wonder Woman was 822.
Oh, okay. All right. So Wonder Woman did deserve the sequel more than Man of Steel, I will say.
Oh, the first Wonder Woman film was phenomenal. Like,
and then they completely backtracked it.
Yeah, and then they just threw it away with the second.
By the way, before we move on,
that sequel was that mall scene where she saved the kids at that food court. That was in my neighborhood. Like, I remember driving past it while they were filming. They would never let me in, but I used to go to that mall all the time.
You're like, I want to get saved by Wonder Woman.
Alexandria, Virginia. It's called the Landmark Mall. It's now basically empty and defunct, but they literally just redid the mall and added like stores, like temporary stores in there, and that whole thing was just built up, and it looks so cool.
That's dope.
But then everything after that was that was the best character of the entire film.
Speaking of the DC films, one that's like continued to be good in my opinion, but I know a lot of people did not like, the Suicide Squad, the second film, The Suicide Squad, was great. Everybody loved that.
Yes.
But Birds of Prey I thought was great as well. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but it's one of those movies that I feel like is like 50-50 with people. But I think Harley Quinn has like become one of DC's like biggest
huge staple.
Stars. Yeah,
huge staple ever since that first Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah, she's only been around like 30-40 years, and like she's become huge. And like,
isn't that long already?
Yeah, and
yeah, she first appeared in the Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, and I feel like they continue to use her in all the best ways, and especially in the Harley Quinn series, which is on HBO, and it's phenomenal. It's all about her kind of finding herself after just being, obviously mistreated by the Joker. And eventually in season 3, she finally gets the balls up and marries Ivy. And season 2. And then in season 3, I haven't watched it yet, but it's all about their relationship post their wedding. But thankfully, as Jordan has shown, season 4 is greenlit. WB
pulled that up way sooner than you were ready for.
No, you're good. WB made the right choice, and they said, "Yeah, we'll continue doing this." Which
we were worried. We talked about it on the podcast.
Listen,
know that like all the animated DC stuff is just so solid.
Well, they also know that they needed money, and this was a surefire way of getting money.
That's
like
true. The cast as well is like so like stacked as well. Like you have Kaylee Cuoco playing Harley Quinn. You also have Alan Tudyk playing Clayface, who is probably my favorite character in the show.
He's hilarious.
I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but Peter's teacher from Spider-Man Far From Home. He plays Ivy's client.
I know Boris Kojo, I think.
Yeah. And then like once all the villains come in, it's phenomenal. Like each one of the big villains, like Joker and Bane and even Penguin, like they're all. The show is hilarious. I'm just saying it's probably one of my like top 10 shows right now. You need to go watch it if you haven't. It's so funny.
Maybe Smooth, that's his name. Excuse
me.
I mixed it up. Somebody from Real Husbands of Hollywood.
It knows what it is too, and we've talked about this before. Of like a show or a movie is not really good unless it's confident with what it is, and this
just
show
accept
knows,
it.
The show knows exactly what it is, and it embraces it really well with its humor.
I think too. So as someone who like just recently started it, I've obviously seen enough about it. I'm not worried about if anyone says anything. I know Jacob, you just said what season 2. I don't care. It's not serious. I've already seen.
You haven't seen season 2 yet? You started watching it so long ago.
Yeah, I know, but then baby got born. We're watching House of Dragons. We're watching She-Hulk. Look,
I feel shitty for ruining it for you. I'm sorry.
No, I already knew. I already knew. Like when season 3 was announced,
you can't go on the internet without finding out what's going on with this stuff.
Yeah, like when season 3 was announced, I knew that like season 3 was like Harley and Poison Ivy's relationship because they got married. So like I already knew. Like you're fine. You're totally fine. Good. I've been loving the show regardless. But like I love too how like I hate to be like this kind of person because I know like sometimes people say like DC needs to find their Kevin Feige or this show is like this show, but it's like not really. but it kind of is like DC meets The Boys to me in the sense that like the supervillains have like talent agencies and like here's where you go to get your goons hired and here's your PR team and this villain all of a sudden is canceled. Like it's so hilarious. And I love it. I enjoy the show so much. I'm glad it got greenlit for season 4. That means when I binge the hell out of the rest of it at some point when She-Hulk's finished, you know, I'll still have something to look forward to. Any thoughts from you, Mr. MrMARVELite?
I feel like this is one great comeback for DC because they've been having so many slumps. But speaking of things coming back after waiting for a while, No Way Home is back in theaters after only waiting about half a year. And now it has 11 more minutes of footage. Tony, did you see it?
I have not. No,
Okay.
It's been a crazy week. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get to the theater to see it.
I will say that it had the scenes that they added didn't add a whole lot as far as Toby and Andrew go. They did add probably about a minute and a half of Toby and Andrew going back and forth with the scene where Andrew's like, I fought a giant robot rhino, and like that scene they continued on for another minute and a half.
They actually released it online. You could actually see that. So
like that scene is probably the best scene in the entire thing. The rest of it is a lot of Betty Brant, like interviews that she had with people.
Was it like also like a senior montage or something that was added to the video? I think I saw that as well.
And then like the post-credit scene was actually Betty Brant like reporting, and it was, yeah. I will say that I think it was worth it seeing it in theaters just because I love the movie. And at the beginning of the movie, Toby and Tom tell Andrew that they love him too, which was really cute.
Yeah.
But I'm glad people were able to go out and see it because
yeah, and with it being National Cinema Day yesterday, if you at least as long as you went to a theater that they didn't send the police to close down, you should have been fine.
Send police to close down theaters.
So there have been some videos online where I guess people were buying their $3 tickets and they were dipping in and out of like the auditoriums, like back and forth, to the point where it got so unruly that some theaters actually had to get the police involved to get everybody out of the theaters.
Wow. You can't give nobody nothing these days, bruh.
Now I had friends like I had like my cousins, like they had their kids hadn't seen No Way Home, and so they got to see the more fun version, and they went on Saturday to go do that. But I heard a number of theaters had some issues. Everybody's like, well, yeah, they're never going to do this again. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it was just a couple theaters, and it was, people just acting foolish like they normally would. And it was probably just at a larger quantity of people that they had to get involved. And of course, the bad stuff always gets like noticed on the internet.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I want to go check it out. We would have probably gone to see it, but as most people who've been listening to podcasts know, we expected our baby, like, hopefully around August 11th, August 15th. She was like, hey, bruh, I'm chilling until that last possible minute, August 25th. So she is a whopping, basically. So she is a whopping week old, that's weird to think about, that I have helped another human being survive for a whole week. But yeah, more than likely it'll be out of the theater before I get to see it, which kind of sucks. But because I would pay to go see No Way Home again, I don't care. Something to do.
Yeah. See, it's hard for me though, because when I saw No Way Home, I actually went to a movie, was a museum's IMAX theater. And so it was not just like the IMAX you'd see at like a theater.
It was bigger than that.
Huge. And like it was like the giant, like the really large scaled, like the tiers with the seats. It was, oh man.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, it was
I don't think I'd be able to watch it again another way after that. Like I don't even think I could watch it at home.
Watch it on your TV and you're just like, all right, I'm gonna take a nap.
Yeah, well, we saw Endgame that way too.
Oh man, that's incredible.
So what you're telling me is that's how I'm seeing Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. Yeah. All right,
I need to buy a plane ticket to wherever they have these museums, like Washington D.C., and go watch it there.
Oh yeah.
Before we move on from that, since Jacob, you are the only one who has seen it, as the video title does say, is the more fun version worth it to watch again? If
It's
you're
definitely-
if you're at least a casual Marvel fan.
It's definitely more fun. They titled it correctly. Is it worth seeing? I would say it's a movie you've already seen, and it's as much as 11 minutes sounds, the 11 minutes aren't a crazy 11 minutes. So I would say try to see it in the matinee, but I think it is worth seeing in theaters because of the fact that we don't know, are they going to release another DVD release with this? Probably not. So
Knowing Sony, though, they'll cash out as much as they can.
we don't know what they're going to do with it. So, obviously that footage will always be online. I'm sure people will film the extra scenes, but I would go see it in theaters just that way you could say you experienced it. But yeah, I mean, it's really up to you.
Yeah, I would go, but my wife would literally be like, "How dare you go see a Spider-Man movie without me? I don't care if it's a re-release." So until she is greenlit to also go with me and we have someone to watch the baby, I'm gonna sit at home.
Speaking of greenlit and all things green, is
a segue. I like that.
Jordan posed the question: is pulling from comic source material valid in a project that never used it anyway?
My clear-cut example, Mr. Marvel, I don't know if you're aware, a lot of people have been talking about when it comes to She-Hulk, oh, Jen is dismissive of Bruce's childhood trauma with his father. Now, I'm not saying that this is right, because I did see a video today that brought up a very fair point that movies have not really done very well. I think the only movie that actually explored Bruce's relationship with his father, and even then they didn't directly do it, was the 2003 Hulk movie with Eric Bana. But I posed the question, is it even valid to say, like, oh, Jen dismisses Bruce's childhood trauma when they've never talked about his childhood trauma ever in the MCU? Like, for all we know, they could just be like, that's not really a part of his character because we don't care, because the Incredible Hulk didn't go into it either.
Right. So, I mean, just taking this from my opinion, I think that it's great to use comic book sources as kind of an idea of building predictions and building ideas of why you would think the MCU would go a certain direction. But unfortunately, the problem with that is we know the MCU is not the comic book 616 universe or the comic book universe at all. And from with the way it sounds with Feige, that the fact that he's pushing that, the MCU is 616, it being it's basically MCU Prime for the movies and the comic books and the movies being separate, until Marvel decides to delve into that in a movie or a show like a She-Hulk show or something else, or World War Hulk later, you can't base that off of something you've read somewhere else, because we're talking about different properties. I mean, let's face it, like we have had Scarlet Witch in the MCU since Age of Ultron. There is no reference whatsoever to Magneto until we know for sure that we have a Magneto in the MCU, and somehow Marvel decides to tie her origin with him. You can't assume that she's Magneto's daughter in the MCU. So it makes it very difficult to, I get where a lot of people are coming from. Like, yes, Bruce Banner in the comics had a lot of trauma and everything else, but the argument that they're putting that out there for is not even, Nav the Poet, I think, put it the best way. It's the best way. Never were they saying that she went through more difficulty than Bruce. It's just saying that she's had a better handle on anger than he has. Mm-hmm. And even if they throw the comic books in, the whole reason why the Hulk existed was because it was kind of like Bruce's escape from the troubles and the trauma that he went through. Bruce himself never properly handled his anger and the things that triggered his anger. Jen just has had lots of things in her everyday life that if she didn't control her anger, people would have labeled her a certain way, and she wanted to be successful. And so she has had more practice in dealing with anger. And again, it's all the idea of people misinterpreting, what's being said. So that's where I come from with it. I mean, I would love for them to delve in that. I mean, it's kind of like with Moon Knight. One of the things I liked is they actually went back and they delved into some of the trauma they had, but it was a different trauma than in
what
the
happened.
comics. Exactly. Like they didn't go
Exactly.
that deep.
It's its own thing. That's what I've said multiple times. The MCU has been clear as its own universe, given ever since Civil War happened, and the Civil War wasn't the same. Jacob, any thoughts you have? I have a clip actually just on what I was saying earlier. Just want to hear your thoughts too.
The only other thing is the line is literally, "I'm better at controlling my anger infinitely more than you are," and it's not like
Even
I've
if the
been
trauma,
through more shit
yeah.
than you have. That's not what she's saying. She's just saying, I've you may have had your whole dad thing happen to you. World doesn't know because it hasn't been said in the MCU, but even if it did, you don't have these things happening to you every day your entire life.
Right.
And she's saying that she does. And so she has to have a tighter grip on her anger because of the way that society views women and because it happens to her daily. It's not just some childhood trauma. It's every day.
Right.
So, Bruce may have a more traumatic life story than her, sure, but she has to control her anger more than Bruce does, more often.
Here's the other thing. Why do people not understand that doesn't make the things mutually inclusive? I don't even know if that's the right way to word that, but like, just because she said I handle my anger more than you has nothing to do with what causes the anger. It's literally like, hey, even if it's just you stub your toe and I stub my toe, you yelled a bunch of expletive, I just yelled ow. It doesn't matter what the source of it is. She's just saying, when it comes to anger, I am better at handling it than you are, because again, it's the same. It's kind of like The Boys, right? The Vought dude, I don't remember his name, but remember when he's just like, I don't get to yell and scream. There's no shade to y'all, but that's white man's luxury. Like, he literally is just like, I don't get to do that. He was like, I have to hold my composure.
That's right.
Huh?
Yeah. That's Giancarlo Esposito's character.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just one of those things where she's just saying, I infinitely handle it more than you because daily I have to reserve my anger. Whereas, you have not. This wonderful video was sent to me by Who Is Nemo. He had stitched it, but it's Cribbaby Plus. I think that's how you say her name. I'm very sorry if it's not how you say your name, or it's Cribbaby Blues. I don't know, because then her name says Blue. But she had this wonderful video. It's only like 2 minutes. We'll go through it real quick and then we'll move on. But there's no audio. It would probably help if I do it.
Bad
job. Y'all hear that?
Bruce Banner.
Yep.
Like, I think we can all agree that the MCU has done a really bad job with Bruce Banner. Like, the most characterization we really get of him is that he feels like a monster, and then a throwaway line in Avengers about how he attempted sewer slide, and then that's just completely forgotten about. But one thing that really
the code
peeves
words
me
on TikTok
is
are so
how
funny.
they've never really talked about just why the Hulk persona exists and how Bruce and the Hulk are two separate people. Bruce Banner had a really bad childhood. It's not talked about a lot in the early iterations, but it's heavily detailed in later stories. His father was an alcoholic, he was abusive, he even tried to prevent Bruce from being born. He was jealous that his son was taking his wife's attention, and when his wife tried to leave, he KO'd her permanently. Bruce developed DID as a result, as a way of suppressing these memories, and it became a coping mechanism for him. So when Bruce was exposed to gamma radiation, the Hulk was created not as an aspect of Bruce's personality, but his own separate entity, his own person. The Hulk protects Bruce whenever Bruce is experiencing extreme emotional distress. The two can also exist without the other for long periods of time, having their own separate experiences and memories. But the most we really get of that in the MCU is in Thor Ragnarok, when Hulk just says, oh, Banner isn't here. The thing is, too, in the MCU is that they essentially just KO'd permanently the Hulk. Bruce claims that him and the Hulk have merged, but they really haven't. Bruce is just conscious when he's in the Hulk form now, and it has hardly been talked about in the MCU, which continues to drive me crazy. And the thing is, I don't want them to talk about it in She-Hulk. I don't. Because Bruce Banner and the Hulk deserve their own movie to talk about it. So if we don't get a World War Hulk movie, I'm gonna riot.
I don't know about the last part, but Yeah, you guys let me know because again, I'm not as versed in Hulk comics, but that is the most knowledge that I've ever been given that made what the Hulk is make sense. Because I've always, Tony in Avengers alludes to that amount of radiation should have killed you. And he's like, are you saying that the other guy saved me or whatever? And like her putting that out from the comics, I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Now, I've never heard anything about Bruce having DID, but would you say that's a fair statement from comic source material?
I would say at some point it felt that way. Of it's a multiple personality thing back then. That's what it was called. But I think as time grew, and so did Marvel, I think that they changed it from being multiple personalities to just his alter ego and something he can't control.
For a long time, it was always assumed that Bruce Banner and Hulk were a splicing between Jekyll and Hyde and the Frankenstein monster, the misunderstood monster, where part of the problem was they like kind of like Bruce says in the show, once they see you as a monster, it's very hard to come back from that. You can't break that. If you even look at the evolution of Bruce, and I think there has been a lot of character development for him in the MCU. You had this you had this idea that he was trying to work on the super soldier serum. It obviously backfired. He became the Rage Monster. He was being hunted by Thunderbolt Ross, and for the longest time, Bruce was trying to heal himself. He was trying to cure himself. When he realized that he could not do that because the whole incident with Harlem and with Leader and everything else, he ends up going off and trying to do good. That's how we find him in Avengers. He's, instead of trying to heal himself, he's out healing others. To the point of where in Avengers he still struggles with the duality of him and Hulk. But when you see him choose to become the Hulk during the Battle of New York, it's very much him in control, because you have that knowledgeable, or not the knowledgeable, but at least the cognizance enough where when he takes on Loki and Loki like declares himself a god, Hulk beats the crap out of it and calls him a puny god, which is the only time we ever hear him talk until Ragnarok. So you've got this this idea that Bruce is the anchor, and he even describes him a little bit in Ragnarok, where he explains that most of the time when he hulks out, it's like he's behind, he's in the passenger seat and Hulk is behind the wheel. But then when whatever happened with Scarlet Witch and Age of Ultron, that changed because Hulk put him in the trunk basically, and then you have this struggle between the two of them where. He goes back to Banner. Banner throws himself on the Bifrost, and of course, nothing. He doesn't change until later on. And then with Infinity War, and there's a debate about whether he was either scared by Thanos or he was tired of fighting Banner's battles.
I never thought of it that way.
And a lot of times, like what she was explaining, where she said that it's really Bruce in Hulk's body. I believe that they both have the ability, and I think Hulk is letting Banner lead. But what I really feel like is going to happen, because it seems like the anchor, like where he was fighting her from leaving the island or leaving the beach, was him losing a bit of control. And I think Hulk is hearing everything that Banner thinks about him, that he's still a monster, that all of this, and
he's like, "Oh, you talking shit?
Like, you're talking about me." I could see them basically splitting again, and it happening soon. Based off of kind of what we saw at the with him and She-Hulk.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that episode.
I definitely think that that's kind of what they're leading up to, is them splitting again, and there being more discord between the two of them. But I will say that I think that description of him that she gave kind of makes you understand that men and women are really different, especially with the way that they portray their anger. And, we've been talking about Hulk a lot, and we can't really talk about She-Hulk because none of us are women. We don't know how women deal with their anger. But I will say, as history has told us all, women tend to deal with their anger a lot better than men. And
whether
I
that's
will
a good
say-
or a bad thing, you know, because like a lot of times, like what She-Hulk is dealing with is like the masking, the like, I just put on a smile or whatever. I
Right.
just have to, you know, wave it off.
And it's not to say that, you know, their way, I guess to revert a little bit, their way of dealing with anger may not be better, but it is more peaceful. And I think that is what she was getting at in this line. You know, she obviously, as a woman, Tatiana Maslany has a lot to pull from when she gave this line. So I don't think that, in a way, I think that men going in and arguing and saying like, bro, she said all this crap about Bruce's childhood trauma. I think that's just kind of like highlighting her point even more.
You're making it about a completely
she's
different
still
thing.
having to deal with, like, even her as a person, not as a character in the show, still have to deal with toxic men, and even just men, period, that don't like. It may be you, me, Jordan, like whoever, that one day say something, and they're not a toxic person, but it is toxic masculinity, and she does have to deal with that on a daily basis. So
my mindset is being challenged. I don't like it, so I'm going to try to invalidate the person who's challenging it.
Yeah.
I think what the video that you just played, what really resounded with me was, this is the thing. She is talking about, you know, about Bruce. She's talking about like the history in the comics about, you know, what his background is, and she's like, I want his story, but I don't want it in She-Hulk. I want his own story to be told. And everyone's saying, oh, this is just replacing Hulk. No, if Marvel is doing this right, and I honestly believe that they are, there is going to be a moment where we're going to finally get an honest representation of what is going on with Hulk. It's just that either like corporate wise, when it comes to licensing and everything else, that's just not the time yet. But we're going to get it at some point, and everyone forgets that. It's like it's like going back to Miss Marvel. Why is Kamala Khan now a mutant when she was an Inhuman in the comics? Well, is because when she was created in the comics, Fox still owned the rights to mutants, and so they weren't going to make a new character that they wanted to really be a prominent character and then just give them to Fox. Like, they were going to make her an Inhuman so that she could still be, you know, different than, let's say, Spider-Man or Captain Marvel, but at the same time, she kind of had that same mutant origin. It would make sense for them to want to go back to that. And so again, they forget that there's all of this corporate stuff that happens that they have
real life problems.
Exactly. You know, and at some point, and I've heard the rumor that, you know, the Hulk's licensing is going to revert back to Disney at some point. They're probably just waiting for that. And Marvel's not wanting to not have a Hulk story. I mean, Hulk is a big character, and I think it's one of those characters that people really liked. I mean, as much as I did not like that 2002 Hulk movie, I still watched it because it was Hulk. You know, it was like, and I just
scared me when I was a kid.
You say as a kid, I'm sitting there like, I was in college, man.
We went and saw it, and I remember being like, he's so big and loud.
Oh my goodness!
Sorry, I completely took you completely off that train of thought.
No, but that's the thing. Like, they feel like they're not getting what they want, so they're going to argue against it, and it's unfortunate because they don't have to. They just need to be patient.
We all know that that's not what this space knows. People don't know patience. Everybody thought Obi-Wan was bad until episode 5.
Listen, we needed to wait up almost 3 full phases before we got a female-led Marvel movie. We needed to wait until phase 4 until we got a female-led, you know, show of any sort, with the exception of Jessica Jones, which a lot of people even want to say that it's still not as canon. But it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, exactly. But it's like, you know, it's She-Hulk's time. And this is the thing. Like, we go back to, you were talking about the comic source material. She-Hulk is probably closer to the comic source material than any of the Marvel shows that we've seen in Phase 4, and people are still complaining about her.
Speaking of literally how on brand She-Hulk is for the show, I saw a tweet. I mean, I can maybe try to find it while we talk about this. I saw a tweet that was like, it was a legit comic panel. So this is for anyone listening, anyone watching who's like, oh, the twerking She-Hulk was corny. It was a comic panel where a job literally was firing She-Hulk. And then she was like, but I come in and I do my job. And he was like, yeah, but you can't come in and make copies of your butt on the scanner. And she's like, how do you know it was me? And he's like, it's a color printer, Jennifer. And she's like, oi. So like, I mean, She-Hulk, similar to Deadpool, has always been kooky, wacky, silly. There's also an article that came out about all the different characters she's slept with. So she's always owned her sexuality. So like,
and
I think She-Hulk twerking makes perfect sense. Like,
She-Hulk has always been that kind of person, and people
claim to know the comics and they don't.
Not to like dog on you, Jordan, but people always compare her to Deadpool. She was around.
She was before, right?
Yeah,
she was before.
And
that's what I thought. That came out when
the fourth wall before Deadpool. And like people just want to continue to compare it, and I get that Deadpool is the more popular one, and like this.
I wonder why he's a man and he's white.
Have you guys realized that the majority, if you really think about it, when we had the comics, we have the comic covers, which were never really associated with the actual story in the comic book, but they're always they're always fun, like, especially for She-Hulk, and really the end credit scenes for a lot of these shows are
like a comic panel.
They're like the cover panel. They're like the comic book cover, like especially for the twerking scene. We've seen She-Hulk. We've seen her, nude with like wind rushes around her, talking about like, oh, this is just to sell more comics. Like you've had her with like full cleavage and all this stuff, nothing to do with the actual story, but it's like they just like used her like image and her body to sell the comic books, and that is exactly what we're seeing with Jennifer, but she's making it fun and she's owning it in a sense.
Yeah, and then also Jacob, yes, that is my bad, because I do remember before the show came out, everyone on Twitter was talking about how she breaks the fourth wall like Deadpool, and people were like, actually, She-Hulk came out long before Deadpool was considered, because Hulk is older than Deadpool.
I think as we were all talking about this, I think the thing that that the three of us and other content creators and people in general, and maybe this is just something that we all need to get on a soapbox and talk about. We should just stop giving the people that have hate for no good reason. We should just stop giving them the time of day, because as you've seen with everything after Endgame, it's always been, this wasn't good enough. This had this was wrong. I didn't like
this one didn't happen.
And it's even like, it's not fully a gender and race thing, because it even happened with SpiderMan No Way Home, but I will say that it is heavier when it includes gender and race that aren't white and male. So it's clearly an issue with toxic white males, and I think that the best path that we can take as a community of comic book and comic book movie lovers is just ignoring those people from now on. If they didn't like the twerking thing, just laugh it off. Don't make a video about it. Don't start talking about it. It's really not worth it.
Because of the platform.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, they're just talking just to hear themselves talk, and a lot of people do that nowadays. And it's just like, everyone has to have an opinion, but every opinion doesn't need to be shared.
That's exactly why I just retweet things like this, where like people are just pointing out the BS. Here's the comic panel I was talking about. It's like, you're letting me go, and it's like, you crushed one of the copiers taking pictures of your butt. She's like, how do you know that was me? It could have been anyone. It was a color copier, Jen. And someone was like, she's literally been interacting with pop culture since the 80s, because that was like a whole little joke thing of like making copy prints of your butt or whatever. That was a whole huge silly thing on TV. And another funny thing, because that's why I don't make videos. I don't really make reviews anymore. I give impressions, but I don't really make reviews and stuff anymore, because I'm done kind of having my opinion kind of tainted by a lot of the toxicity that goes on. Because this was also funny to me. I didn't even remember this, but no one was calling Zemo trying to dance in the club cringe. No, now Star-Lord dancing, we just all thought that was funny.
Right.
Star-Lord dance, for those, if you want to come over to the video version, YouTube, look up the Daily Kazoo podcast. We're seeing an image of She-Hulk twerking. It's probably going to get this video blocked on YouTube. Zemo dancing in the club, like going in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then Star-Lord literally using a dance battle distraction against Ronan while Ronan is standing there with a giant hammer that could take his head off. And nobody was like, oh, the MCU is so cringe. The MCU fell off. Zemo is the worst one here. Zemo is the worst one, in my opinion. It's but he's a super villain, you know.
And it's not the first time it's happened in a comic book adaptation. Peacemaker, he was in his underwear dancing in the apartment. Like, come on.
And everyone, you know, Peacemaker was peak every week.
Or even the opening intro. How many people love the opening intro of Peacemaker?
Do you really want to taste it? It was fun. It was fun.
Seriously,
that's it's like Jacob said. People just want to talk, and that's why I am for I just make the videos I want to make, and I have fun watching the shows. I honestly don't even really scroll the timeline like that because also, and I've been a victim of it too. Sometimes you use the negativity to farm the views, and I just couldn't keep doing it anymore. I just couldn't. I just make my jokes and then I log off.
I just think it's time to quit with it. Like people don't want to ever like something. Like the whole Thumper saying from Bambi. If you don't have something nice to say, or if you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all.
Yeah,
People may have like, there were a lot of really cool moments in this past episode, but the one moment everybody wants to fixate on negatively is the last part of the episode, which is her.
Like how did that take over the conversation more than the fact that they had a D-list group like the Wrecking Crew on the show?
I was literally me and Julia were sitting next to each other, and I was like, "Is this the Wrecking Crew?" And I was just like, "Holy crap!" And like, yeah, the last scene happened, but to me, at the end of the day, I was thinking the internet's going to go crazy about that twerking scene. I cannot believe the Wrecking Crew is in the MCU now after so long because they're mainstay villains, and like it was weird seeing them. And speaking of the Wrecking Crew, they say in the show the boss isn't going to like this because they got their asses handed to them by She-Hulk, which has begged the question: who is the boss?
Who do you think it is? I have a theory of who it is.
Who do you think it is?
I think it's Leader.
Okay, that's what I've seen a lot of
back.
Because if we got Emil Blonsky and we know, like, and here's the thing, I think a lot of people don't realize when you look at those end credits, those images of the that are giving the credits before you get that end credit scene for the twerking, like that's part of the story. Like when Blonsky's on the bus and he leaves the seven like soulmates behind and they're crying, that's part of the story. So like,
the panels are actually
going without the soulmates. Like they're adding to the story. Like that wasn't a one-off. That's he used them. Where is he going? And
you've made me realize I need to go back and like rewatch. I might do it tonight because the baby gonna keep us up late. I might go back and rewatch the episodes because I didn't think about the fact that the panels at the end of every episode show like a panel that has nothing to do with anything. But really, it sounds like it does.
But then with things like that, where we have characters maybe returning like the Leader after years,
that means the Universal stuff might be coming to an end soon.
Huh?
I said that means the Universal stuff might be like true about like,
and with the Leader making a possible return, we might also continue to see other characters return that we were kind of like, where did they go? What happened with that? And the same thing kind of happened this past year with Shang-Chi and having Sir Ben Kingsley come back as his role of
Trevor.
What?
Trevor, right?
Trevor Slattery. Yeah. And him coming back as kind of like the King's Fool kind of character for the Mandarin.
Yes. The monkeys weren't riding the horses. They were acting as if they were riding the horses.
That blew my mind. No, but apparently he is going to be returning back to the MCU for his fourth appearance because he's been in Shang-Chi. He's been in obviously Iron Man 3.
All Hail the King.
And he was also in All Hail the King, which is the one shot that Marvel did with him. Which originally was alluding to the fact that there is a real Mandarin out there. It's not just some actor.
And if you haven't watched All Hail the King, I highly recommend that you do, because not only for Ben Kingsley's appearance, that was a fantastic like short for him, but also the reference with Justin Hammer, because we will be seeing Justin Hammer in Armor Wars. So,
but with him coming back to the MCU with his 4th appearance, it's going to be for the Wonder Man series, which is interesting because Marvel hasn't announced that yet. But obviously it's coming because we've got the confirmation that Ben Kingsley is returning for that. But it makes sense because Wonder Man was an actor and Ben Kingsley is playing an actor. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping he has a bigger role like he had in Shang-Chi, because his character's ignorance is probably some of the most refreshing comedy that we've gotten in the MCU in a long time. He's
so great.
Just him saying like, my mother took me to see like the Planet of the Apes. That entire scene was hysterical, and I think they could definitely play off that a lot more with the Wonder Man series, and just having Wonder Man react to him of just like, okay,
are you okay? Are you good?
But I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be great. Anything Ben Kingsley does is usually 10 out of 10.
And he's having fun with the character, which I think is the best part about it, because it's just like, that was one of the biggest bait and switches with Iron Man 3, and I was like completely floored for it. And I know a lot of people were upset at first because, and this is the thing, like we're talking about things that are coming back. What if AIM comes back? Because like you can't throw anything away. WandaVision, I think it was either episode 2 or episode 3. Actually, it was episode 2. There's the opening credits where you see Vision phasing through the house, and there's actually the Reaper's hat or the helmet, which we've not even seen him in the MCU. And with the idea of it being called the Nexus and it being this hexagon shape, I was like, what if, because the Reaper was always known as like the intermediary between Hydra and AIM. Like, and then you had like the Hydra soap and stuff like that. Like, what if AIM and Hydra are in the background of things? Because we did see Hydra in Ant-Man. You've got the Reaper's hat. What if all of this stuff is just accumulating to this big world problem that we don't even know about yet?
There's always stuff going on in the background that we don't even know what's going on, and like. That's the thing Marvel's been very good at, and we've talked about this on the podcast, retrofitting, kind of leaving little open lines and open threads so that if they want to revisit it, and then you go back and watch it, and it makes that whole moment of like, ooh, they knew that they were going to do this all along, even if they didn't. So I agree. I'm excited to see what kind of like B and C story type villains and type interactions that they've got going on, because there's definitely quite a few of them. That is interesting. I know that there's been rumor about Wonder Man, but I didn't realize until you just said it, Jacob, that it hasn't been officially announced. So
I was like, well, I guess we're getting this at D23 because it was reported by like a bunch of reputable sources, and I was like, this is odd that we're finding out about it in Ben Kingsley's coming back kind of way.
And Henry Cavill, Wonder Man, just watch. Like they're gonna be like, you don't want to do Superman, we'll take him.
I've heard a couple theories that he might be in Loki season 2 as Hyperion, which I would not be opposed to. But anyway, I have no sort of segue for the next bits because they're all really random. After
Lord of the Rings.
Years of just us listening to Howard Shore on Spotify because we just want to feel something again. Lord of the Rings is now back on Amazon Prime with a prequel series called Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. I haven't been able to watch any of it yet, but
so
it does. The main character is Lady Galadriel, correct?
Right.
But
it also follows Elrond.
Sauron's rise.
So Sauron's rise. She's hunting him down. Elrond is in there, so you do have a young Elrond. Not Hugo Weaving, but it's still good. You get it's kind of like a before the hobbits get to the Shire or build the Shire, so they're very primitive individuals, they almost act as if they're like fairies because they hide from mankind. Like mankind doesn't really know that they exist, which is kind of rather interesting. One thing to note about this is it is not pulling from the Silmarillion. From what I've understood from other people reporting, Amazon could not get the rights from the Tolkien family for Silmarillion. So this is a little bit more. This is more of the addendum information that was added to Lord of the Rings, and they're doing a little bit more original content with this, which honestly, what they've done so far has been pretty legit. I've enjoyed it.
I do want to see this scene. A little baby Gandalf showing up, and somebody posted that on Twitter. I was dying. I was like, "Is that Baby Yoda holding the soup, but with Gandalf's head? That's good."
You shall maybe not pass.
If you haven't seen it yet, go check that out. Because
little pipe,
a little tiny. It's like a play school.
It's bubble.
Yeah, Fisher Price. Anyway,
I have Fisher Price stuff. Sorry, with all the baby stuff, I got Fisher Price. That was funny.
You have your baby a pipe. That's what I need to know.
Lord of the Rings is back, and according to Tony, it's just as good as before. Go back on Amazon Prime, watch that because it's. I don't think Lord of the Rings is ever going to have a bad day.
I'll say this. Well, we remember The Hobbit, but anyway. I was a little disappointed with The Hobbit. I think my favorite thing from The Hobbit when they did it was when they did it the 4K 3D, like the amount of people that were getting sick and throwing up in the movie theater because it was just too much for them. I love that. I just loved that story back when it first came out. But I will say this: Lord of the Ring, the Rings of Power, did something for me this weekend. Stuff with my kid going on and everything else. We were sitting and we did our show on Friday night, and then I put it on because I hadn't finished it, and my son was like doing something in the background on the bed while I was watching, and immediately started asking questions. And we started right after the show was over. We started Fellowship of the Rings, and he's hooked. I've been trying to find the right time to get him into that, and brings a time for me. So it's time. And so we finished Fellowship yesterday, and we're going to get ready to start Two Towers soon. So
he should have been like, "Hey, Dad, I don't mean to drop in No Eves, but what are you watching there?" I'm not dropping No Eves. I'm sorry. Anyway, Showtime and Paramount Plus are now getting their own thing together, which I've said before, the less streaming services, the better. We have way too many out there. Everybody's got 7 different bills coming from Amazon Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus, like all the other things. Thank God you don't have to pay for Showtime. You pay for Paramount Plus and you get both.
It's like you just said it better not have a plus in it.
Yeah, let's face it. When Disney Plus came out, like, okay, that's interesting. There's like Paramount Plus and everything else. Like I was
Apple TV Plus
for HBO Max and for Peacock just because they didn't have a plus in the name. Like I was, it's really, you want to. How did Disney not trademark the plus?
I don't know, because everybody really did steal it afterward. Because yeah, you're right. It's Disney Plus,
Discovery Plus,
Discovery Plus,
Vought Plus. I'm just kidding. if you go on Instagram and Twitter, the boys has made fun of all of these accounts with saying Vought Plus has the origin of Homelander on it or whatever. Like it's satire at this point. But yeah, they should have.
Everything that's special about you came out of a bottle. Actually, he was just made in a bottle.
They should have just they definitely should have gotten that patented or something, like to where no one else could touch it. Like, because it's become everyone's using Plus, Apple Plus. I mean, Paramount Plus, like everyone. It's a lot.
Of course, if it weren't for that fact, we wouldn't have like the parodies like Disney Minus. Like, I'm sorry, I loved those videos.
That's hilarious.
But it is a good thing that they're combining. I want to say that we always end on a negative. I don't want to say we have one less streaming service.
Called Paramount Plus Showtime then.
Showtime's Paramount Plus. I'm just kidding. Maybe it should just be a merger, right? Where it's just like you're just gonna take one of their names. You know what? They should just take Showtime, so we get rid of another service that has Plus in it, and everything in Paramount just comes to Showtime, and it's just called Showtime. Yeah, that sounds like
they're gonna be Paramount Time.
But now that they're closing, they're creating a new thing with Showtime, it's going to be Paramount Plus Plus,
Plus, plus, plus. It's just the X's off to the side.
Every time there's a plus added, it's another conglomerate that they've added into their roster.
Guys who are listening, I want you to know, if you have made it this far, we are absolutely just BSing at this point of names to give this service. We ain't really got nothing else to talk about. No, but
I feel like I should grab my Boggle game and just shake the box. See what comes up.
Yo, we definitely enjoy this show.
What will the name be?
We enjoy the show because, like, it really is just a bunch of people just having a good time. That is why we get lost in conversation and all of that stuff.
Well, listen, you set the bar high at the beginning with doing body yada yada with the
body yada 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 yada. I want you to know that, like, it actually was pretty hard to do that, because if you actually go on TikTok, like, when that song was first popping, it's just one note. Like, it's just one note.
No.
Yeah. So, but appreciate everybody who has made it all the way this far. Appreciate everyone who popped into the live. Whether you came in and lurked for a minute or you popped up in the chat, we appreciate you.
Always appreciate stopping.
Anyone who's listening, make sure to rate us 5 stars so we can get over to new listeners as we wrap up. MrMARVELite, is there anything that you would like to plug? Any, socials, anything you're working on, anything you got going on big in the next couple weeks, couple months, even if it's a year from now?
Just want to point everybody to Nerd Initiative for great articles, and we had just premiered our first show with Fandoms on Friday, and you can find that on our YouTube. And we're super excited because we had, like, I think we were hovering around 800 subscribers, and within 24 hours of the show, we were over 1,000, and we're still growing. So it's been great, and we've got some great people, and some people I know are also kind of like fantastically associated. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, for sure. And we will make sure, if you would like, I'm going to be including some form of your socials, like your Twitter or Instagram, whatever's maybe most important to you, into the description. I can also include any Nerd Initiative socials in the description for the YouTube description box down below. Y'all make sure to go check out MrMARVELite. Great dude. He's got good content on TikTok. Really heavy with the Nerd Initiative, like he said. They're doing really dope stuff. And yeah, we appreciate you pulling up, filling in for Adam while he's a little bit under the weather.
Thank you for the invitation. And anytime I'm on a show that Adam's not, I'm good.
What is it with y'all just roasting?
I love him. It's all about. Listen, now, would I choose Jacob's fiance over him on Fortnite? Absolutely. But there's nothing.
Listen, she's better than all of us. It's okay to say at this point. Everyone knows.
What's hilarious is just, like, everyone who I've met through, like, the circle that Adam and Jacob are in. Y'all are all the same. Every single one of you will be the sweetest person in the world, and then just say something like that. I'm just like, are y'all friends?
Listen. Me and Adam are about the same age by just a couple months. So
this makes perfect sense.
What was World War I like?
Oh. Listen, anyway. I will hit you with my cane if you keep it up.
I feel like we're about to just drift off further. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Jacob, where's your name? Where can they find you?
I'm KingVonSchweetz. You can find me pretty much everywhere. Don't look me up on YouTube because I don't have any videos there. But there is a channel out there, but I haven't done anything with it. But yeah, and Jordan, where can they find you?
Y'all can find me on all social media. Please hit up my YouTube and my Twitch. That's what I'm trying to get it popping on. And Instagram, because Instagram's where I put out my notifications for everything that I got going on. I'm on there all day. JPhrygian on every platform. Y'all make sure to follow Daily Kazoo on any other social media. Links in the description box will be down below. Instagram, Twitter, all that bullshit.
And we don't have a sound. We don't have
Adam's soundboard. So as always, we love you 3000. Bye, everybody.
See you later.